Good morning, pilots! Today we're going to be looking at the Robot Spirits Gundam project line, provided graciously to us by Bandai Tamashii Nations. We've got 6 Gundams from Stardust Memory and other media to cover, so let's get right into it. First up, we're going to be looking at the GP01 Zephyrantes, the bread and butter of the GP series. I've always liked this design a lot more than the full burner, but we'll get to that one later. Cracking open the packaging, this thing is loaded with accessories and is a great translation of Kunio Okawara's design. It's got 2 beam sabers and slots for the shield joints that let the sliding shield pop in easily, as well as both its beam rifle and bullpup rifle, which is included in a bag with all of the beam and thruster effects. It also has a beam saber clash effect and a spare antenna for all of us that misplace or break them, as well as an assortment of hands and extra mags. The articulation across the board for these figures is wild, with full bends for the legs and the arms and full rotation for the upper arms and the hands. The shield also has its iconic gimmick that lets it slide to be more compact. The beam saber rack is also articulated, and so are the individual backpack thrusters a la Thunderbolt. There's also slight articulation in the backpack for more dynamic, dramatic thruster poses. This is a really solid base figure, and I would not be surprised if P Bandai came out with either of the armored variants from other media. Next, we'll be looking at the GP01 Full Burner, the upgraded version of the Zephyrantes that gives it so many more maneuverability options. Opening it up, the figure looks stellar, though I don't think I'll ever personally like the extra casing that's around the calves. The antenna is packaged separately on this figure for safety, and there's spares included again. There's also optional chest thrusters that it uses when pulling off Top Gun maneuvers, and expanded shoulder thruster parts as well. The Gym custom style shoulders do look so much better than standard Gundam shoulders in my opinion. It has all the same effect parts as the GP01 and then some, and this 2-part beam shooting effect adds a lot of flair to the rifle. It also has these directional flared booster parts that you can attach to the standard effects, which are meant for the full burner boosters, and there are also sleeker versions of it as an option. I also forgot to show it with the Zephyrantes, but these figures have some intense neck articulation. This figure is a fantastic expansion on the first GP01, and sets itself apart with a lot of the extra option parts as well as effects that can be used with the rest of the line. Now we have one of my favorites, the GP02 Physalis. This unit is downright menacing, fitting since it's being piloted by Anavel Gato, the Nightmare of Solomon. The packaging is understandably much larger than the last two, and contrary to promotional images, they captured the original gray tones of the suit rather than making it bright white like the others. The wing binders have several points of articulation, and are incredibly detailed both inside and out, with all 6 Verners being fully posable. The Physalis' bazooka is faithfully recreated as well, with the barrel somehow being able to fit in the giant shield, as well as having a retractable sight near the head unit. This bazooka linking scene is one of my earliest memories of watching Gundam on Toonami. The animation is so detailed and it lives in my head rent-free. For accessories, it has mostly the same effects as the Zephyrantes but in green, minus the beam clashing effect. There's also extra articulation in the wing binders for the alternative flight mode, as well as a double joint in the ankle so this thing isn't a brick. It's a pretty simple and straightforward figure that definitely takes one of the top spots in this line for me, though I do wish it came packaged with the nuke effect parts. Another one of my favorites here is the GP03 Stamen. I know people love this thing mostly because of the Dendrobium Orcus mobile armor, but I personally think the design of the suit itself holds up really well on its own. Opening it up, it looks sleek and well-rounded with a brighter white than either of the GP01 units. All of the black mini thrusters across its body do well to break up the armor, and mechanically they kinda make sense for all the micro corrections that it need to enter the Dendrobium. The coolest feature on this figure is the folding arm gimmick that it needs to pull its weapons out of the Dendrobium's weapon pods, which they captured perfectly. The wing binders also have an option part so you can put thruster effects into the Werner, though it looks a little disjointed and off-centered. This also comes with the same rifle as the GP01, though I kind of wish they'd given us a second folding bazooka to recreate one of its most iconic scenes. The shield also has its folding gimmick and fits well without needing any extra joint parts on the outer arm shell, and the folding recharging racks on its backpack house its beam sabers perfectly, though they can be a little tricky to get out. Speaking as someone who has modded the HG extensively to give it better articulation and proportions, this figure is a godsend. And it looks like it'd fit perfectly in a high-grade Dendrobium as well if you happen to have one. Next, we'll be looking at the GP04 Gerbera. You may not recognize it since the GP04 never showed up in Stardust Memory proper, but it was eventually converted into the Gerbera Tetra by Anaheim Electronics for the Shima fleet. You can even see some designs that carry it over into the new suit, like the shoulder thrusters and the rounded forearms. Its most prominent feature is probably the triple stern booster on its backpack, which really shows off its specialization in hit-and-run tactics. It also comes with a more detailed version of the GP01's shield that has the Gundam Project decal on it. This has gotta be one of my favorite decal designs, but it's kind of weird that it's upside down. The rifle it uses is a modified version of the GPO-1s, with a longer barrel and a bigger magazine, but also with 3 handles for some reason? It looks fantastic in any case, and was made for faster shots and extended range. It didn't help it against Shima though. Just like all the previous figures, this comes with a lot of the same beam and booster effects, and I absolutely love these shoulder thrusters since they remind me of the side quick boost in Armored Core 4 Answer. It's a shame that there are no boost effects for the Sturm boosters, though there are still these 4 Werners that can take the effect parts. All in all, the GPO-4 Gerbera is a very solid figure with a lot of unique design language that sets it apart from the GPO-1 Zephyrantes. Still, its development was unfortunately cancelled for being way too similar. Last but definitely not least is a bit of an oddball, the GP00 Blossom. This was the first of the GP series and served as a testbed for a lot of what was implemented later down the line. This design is really cool since it serves as the missing link between the 0083 designs and the One-Year War designs like the RX-78-4. It's got these beam Vulcans on both sides of its head that can also eject and be used as beam sabers, and turning it around, it is just absolutely loaded with extra leg thrusters. This is also the only one in the line to include a core fighter, and it is beyond detailed with opening wings and an opening cockpit canopy. The Blossom's gigantic rifle can also be attached to the underside of the fighter, and there's even a clear stand included if you want to display it in flight. The ray dome that the Blossom uses can also be attached to the top of the fighter by switching out the grey arm part, and the Vulcans on the Blossom's chest can be converted into forward swept wings. We know the GP00 is a bit more expensive than any of the other 5 figures, but you really get more bang for your buck with this core fighter. Of course, all of these attachments aside from the nose of the fighter fit on the figure itself, and it looks absolutely fantastic once all put together. The rear flight unit reminds me of the rear wing binders on the GPO-3S. And speaking of which, the whole configuration seems like a prelude to the Dendrobium with its large rifle and ray dome, though the latter has a colossal I-field generator instead. Thank you all genuinely for watching this review, and a special thank you to Bandai and Tamashii Nations for providing us samples for our store. By the time this video uploads, all 6 of the Gundam Project Robot Spears should be in stock in-store and on our website, while supplies last of course. We likely won't be getting HGUC revives of these 6 anytime soon, but who knows, stranger things have happened like the Q-Blade and the Gundam Mark II getting revives a couple years after they got build fighter kits made of them. Anyway, see you next time!